Comic books have a lot of things in common with other forms of art. Some of these similarities include using drawings and writing to represent ideas, as well as color and line to bring out emotion. These traits that help make other art forms successful can also help create comic books that are successful if they are used to create a feeling of closure in the comic itself. I will describe closure as the reader being able to complete the scene even if some information is missing. Gutters, picture transitions, and paneling all help in developing what is going on in multiple images. If executed correctly, the artist's message would reach the reader unchanged, which is the goal of the artist. In comic books, it is up to the reader's discretion to imagine the events that take place between images in the gutter. In comics, the gutter is a space between panels where the reader mentally connects the two separate images as if it were a movie scene. An example of gutters helping to create closure can be seen in the comic Avengers Alliance. Captain America wants to destroy a platform that the villain built near a rift connecting two galaxies, so in a panel, Captain America directly states to destroy the platform. In the panel after the one Captain America said to destroy the platform, we see an explosion. In reality, we do not know what was blown up or who blew it up, but from context clues, we can assume that it was someone from the Avengers that destroyed the platform that Captain America said to blow up. That little film or movie scene we play in our head of what happens when the platform is destroyed is closure. Scott McCloud describes closure as observing the parts but perceiving the whole. The readers of comic books cannot actually tell what is happening between two scenes, so it is the comic book's artist and author's job to make it so the reader knows what is important for the author and the artist that they want to convey to the reader. There are quite a few ways in which pictures can interact. In understanding comics, the 6 ways are movement to movement, action to action, subject to subject, scene to scene, aspect to aspect, and sequitur. In Avengers Alliance, only action to action, subject to subject, and scene to scene are expressed. In fact, it is not surprising that these are the only 3 in this Marvel comic, because almost all American comics exclusively use the same 3 to tell the story. The 3 being action to action, subject to subject, and scene to scene. The reason these are the most prevalent 3 is because they tell the story very directly in a fairly concise period of time for the reader. Issues start to occur for the author when the images do not show what is happening. In situations where we cannot tell exactly what is happening, we have the most room for imagination. The reason for McCloud's beliefs that action to action, subject to subject, and scene to scene are so popular in American comics is because American art and literature has always been about reaching the destination instead of enjoying the journey. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Japanese comics have more scene-to-scene transitions because their art has been more focused on the process instead of the end result. Because American art has always been about reaching a point, it only makes sense that action to action, subject to subject, and scene to scene are the big 3 transitions that we use. We can see an example of a subject to subject sequence in Avengers Alliance when the Marvel superheroes are fighting the tree villain, and the pictures are from the same scene, but different angles to provide us with separate viewpoints. In each of these gaps, we get a mental picture of what is going on, providing us with closure. McCloud believes that within these panels, we can only convey information visually, but between panels, none of our senses are required at all, which is why all of our senses are engaged. An example of our senses being engaged occurs on page 3 of the comic. Moving from picture to picture on the bottom right side of the page, I can imagine how the lightning that Captain America is blocking would sound, feel, and look from all aspects of the picture. The lines, the color, and my imagination all help my senses become engaged. One thing that we have not covered yet is the time aspect of panels. If the reader has a good sense of time for what is going on in the comic, it would be easier to have closure. The aspects of panels that deal with time can be the size, shape, and number of panels. The image inside of a panel combined with the size, shape, and number of panels help the reader figure out how much time occurs between images. In this issue of the Marvel magazine, there are a lot of images that bleed into the background, and then the panels on the same page are sort of zooming into what is happening. In situations like this, the action is occurring in a very close time period. One reason for believing this is because the background overlaps onto the panels, connecting them in terms of the content. Because of the very similar content, we know it is taking place at a very similar time. To conclude, the main art of comic books is closure. Gutters, types of picture transitions, and paneling all create feelings that help us get a better sense of what is actually going on in the comic, helping us to understand what the author and artist had in mind when creating the comic.